Welcome to the Potential Leader Lab. I'm your host, Perry Maughmer, and today on episode 71, we are going to talk about walking away from the noise. So, preface on this is going to be the first of a three-part series. So, episode 71, 72, 73 over the next several weeks are all going to be pieces of this discussion. And again, walking away from the noise. So as a general kind of series title, it would be something in the realm of the relentless truth for me, stepping away from self-promotion. And so this is episode 1, and I want to be clear, this is just my opinion. It's what it's as Kierkegaard would say, and you'll hear next week, it's truth is subjective. And so this is what I find to be true for me. I'm sharing it with everybody else to see if it resonates with anybody else and to just kind of get my thought on this out there to get everybody else's thought if they feel in a similar or dissimilar way. And I entertain all the opinions, even though they probably won't change what I'm doing, which it shouldn't, because I've spent a lot of time coming to this conclusion. This has actually been I would say at least a 3-year process for me. And I will tell you that in sitting down and preparing for the next 3 podcasts, it's really helped me put structure and order around my thought as to why this makes sense. And at some point, I'll even be most likely transitioning a new title for the podcast because there's a lot behind this. And the irony is not lost on me that I'm here on a podcast, which is arguably a form of promotion, telling you that I'm stepping away from self-promotion. But in a minute, I am going to talk about I want to set this up by talking about the difference between, in my head, the way I look at it, marketing and promotion, which I'm all for marketing. I believe marketing is essential. It's just for me, the promotion part doesn't make much sense. And I'll tell you why. And I know that some people might find this surprising. You might disagree with it. That's all cool. Everybody does what they got to do. And again, this isn't like a dramatic exit or a sudden decision. You know me, explore, experiment, evolve. This has been a 3-year process for me. And I have, unfortunately for myself, tried to do things that are just against my nature and belief system in order to do things that needed to happen to make other things happen. And now I'm no longer willing or even able to do that. And so I'm not here to offer a solution, a fix, a mindset. This isn't like a trendy mindset shift. This has been something, and I think that anybody who knows me would be able to validate this, that this is what I've believed all along, and this is what I've always struggled with. So without further ado, let's dive in and see what kind of dissension we can create. All right, so initially, I want to just spend a couple seconds talking about, in my head, this is not heavily researched, but in my head, kind of the differences between marketing and promotion. And I think those fall into some categories that I've outlined here, and a couple of them are probably more important than others. One is purpose and intent. So in my mind, marketing is more of a broad, like strategic effort to communicate value, build relationships, and create long-term awareness. And it's about, positioning and storytelling and establishing a presence in somewhat of a thoughtful way. And for me, promotion is far more tactical, and it's often, short-term activities aimed at getting attention, immediate attention, or a response. And it's about visibility. It's about generating visibility. And so those things to me are different. I can see where promotion does fall into marketing, and you may want to have a promotional strategy. I mean, I get it. I understand it. And by the way, again, I want to clarify something. I'm not saying nobody should ever promote anything. I'm not saying that promotion is bad. I'm just sharing with you the way I feel about promotion. And since I'm an army of one, it is essentially self-promotion, right? Because I'm not promoting a product. I'm not promoting anything except myself. And so it does take on a very personal feel for me. And that's what I'm talking about here. So again, I'm not condemning promotion. I'm not condemning self-promotion. I'm sharing with you how I feel about self-promotion. And so from a podcast standpoint, an example would be if I wanted to build out, and I'll go to I said this earlier, the irony wasn't lost on me. If I go to from a marketing perspective, but I want to build a podcast that aligns with my philosophy and consistently share my ideas that are thought-provoking, to me, that's marketing. Promotion would be creating, snippets or something to put on social media with catchy captions to get clicks. Like that to me is promotion. I don't really have any interest in promotion. And believe me, I'm sitting here talking into this microphone, thinking about and contemplating, do I want to continue to do this? Is this aligned with me philosophically? And it's funny because, and I know that lots of marketing people would argue this, and they'd be right, which is, well, if you're going to do a podcast and you're never going to promote it, then what the hell are you doing it for? Who's going to listen to it? And I don't have an answer for that. Like, I literally don't have an answer for it. I can just tell you I like doing it. I know that some people that they comment, they tell me they listen to it, it helped them. I love that. Like, I love the connection part of it. I like putting stuff out there. I'm probably going to keep doing it, at least for the short term, but I won't be promoting it. And here's something that I don't know I've spoken about before, but I'll tell you this because this is going to become an issue for me. I'm in the process of writing a book, and I have no intention of promoting the book. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I actually, John Acuff is a famous author. He writes a lot of books, and I've had the opportunity to speak at an event with him years ago. And it was just so funny because obviously it comes across. I'm scrolling through something. I see a quote. I see him. He had a little blurb, and he said he talked to a friend of his, and he said his friend said, "I'm going to write a book, but I'm not going to promote it." Now this is funny, right? This just came up. And he said, well, if you're writing a book and not going to promote it, that's a diary, not a book. and I showed it to Lisa, and I'm like, he's probably right. So by default, anybody who does read the book, you just be reading my diary. But anyway, we'll move on. So I also think there's an issue for me with marketing and promotion is relationship building versus kind of transactional. And I think marketing, you're trying to build trust and loyalty by focusing on delivering a consistent value, right? And then in promotion, it's more transactional. You're generating a quick interest or a specific reaction, like a sale or a click. Again, I don't really have anything that people can do that with. Like, I'm not trying to sell something or have something for people to click on. I want to focus on building relationships for the work that I do. And by the way, I make the justification because part of why I have a podcast is to put those ideas out there so somebody might be able to go reference them if they want to work with me. And then the last two I'll talk about is I think one is more storytelling versus shouting. And marketing involves telling that story that resonates and reflects a deeper philosophy or mission. And it's about inviting people to engage with an idea or a movement, which is really what I try to do through the Relentless View. To me, it's an ethos, it's a philosophy, it's a way of thinking, a way of looking at the world that I invite people to engage with as it means something to them. And that's what's critical about this. I view myself as very much a messenger. I want to be out there spreading the message of this because I think there's a freedom associated with it and it's empowering to people. That's what I want to share with them. And I want them, my idea of promotion is if people that I end up engaging with tell other people, that's awesome because it means enough to them that they want to share it with somebody, and that's going to be meaningful to them and to the next person all day long. But I don't want to get involved in the shouting that I believe is what promotion really is for me. It's what I feel that it is. It's the way I look at it. And then finally, I do think there's a little bit authenticity versus performance. Marketing aligns with your values and your mission, even if it doesn't generate immediate attention. Some of this might have a long tail, right? Some of it you might be investing in on the front end for something that might be a month, 6 months, a year away, where promotion is often you're trying to craft a message that looks good and sounds catchy, regardless of depth or alignment. Like your focus is on, will people click on it, right? Will something go viral? And so the minute we try to consider, the minute it influences the creation, is for me, that's the flip. Like I want to put stuff out there that resonates. And I told, and I'll share this with you guys, I told, for better or worse, the folks that I'm writing the book with, because I am using an organization, I'm using a company to help me. The company's called Story Builders. And I'm having a great time and they're great people. But I told them in the process, I said, look, this is what's really important for me. I'm going to write this book. And I want you to understand that here's my measure for how it has to be from a voice standpoint. I don't want anybody who knows me to read this book and think to themselves, this sounds kind of like Perry, but not really. Did he back off of stuff because he wanted more people to like it? He didn't want to offend anybody. Whatever that thing is. I want people that know me to read it and be able to go, oh, absolutely, it's 100%. This sounds like I'm in a conversation with him, rather than somebody who's never talked to me read the book at all. And so the way I'm measuring this is, it's so important to me that it is truly in my voice, that the people who do know me are 100% in agreement with that, versus anybody who has never worked with me or met me reading it thinking it's a great book. And I know that may sound paradoxical and counterintuitive, but that is more important to me. It's far more important to me. I don't want anybody who's worked with me or knows me to read the book and think that I backed off of anything, or it kind of sounds like me every now and then, but it's more, written for the general public. So we'll see how that works out. I may have a bunch of books that nobody wants to buy, and I might give them all away. And that's fine too, by the way. I just want to write it because I've always wanted to write it. So let's get into step one, promotion versus marketing. We talked about that. Now we're going to talk about walking away from the noise. Now, this is why, and now I am going to tell you that what I'm going to share today is going to be largely based on Jean-Paul Sartre, because this one's based on Sartre. Then we got Kierkegaard, the next one. Then we got Heidegger, the next one. And I want to tell you that all these people, now Kierkegaard in the second one is the oldest. Like he lived in the early to mid 1800s. Sartre died in 1980. Heidegger died in 1976. So I'm going to tell you the stuff they brought up was nowhere near the impact of promotion and marketing and the crowds that we see now and the platforms and all that stuff. But they have identified these things back then. So imagine how amplified and exacerbated this stuff is now. So to me, there's an existential conflict. And I think social media taps into our basic need to feel significant. It kind of tricks us into thinking that being seen is the same thing as being valuable. For me, again, just want to clarify this. And I think that ties into Sartre's bad faith. When we promote ourselves, are we genuinely expressing something meaningful, or are we just playing a role? And for me, I found out that I was posting stuff to be seen, not because I had something essential to say. I spent too much time crafting something, and I wanted to say it a certain way, but would people take it this way? So at some point I did, not anybody's fault. I just felt pressured to stay relevant. And I think there's a cost to visibility. The constant need to be visible, I think, erodes authenticity. And authenticity is something I value. Now, we'll circle back around to that word a little bit later, because I think people take it differently than what I'm taking it. But it kind of started making me question my own motives and whether I'm contributing anything meaningful. Because it's hard to, in my opinion, do something meaningful in like 140 characters or, whatever, or a picture sometimes. Some people can. That's different than me. Again, I'm not casting aspersions at everybody. But I do believe, and I've wrestled with this for a number of years, that at some point, isn't good work enough? Isn't the work itself, shouldn't it stand on its own merit instead of needing to tell people you're doing good work? So my question to everybody out there is, have you ever posted something and then questioned why you did it? Was it to share something real, or do you want to be noticed? Because again, we go back and look at how many likes and clicks and shares and all those things, to what end? I mean, I've had this conversation with a number of marketing people over the years. I've been doing what I'm doing now, working for myself, about 10 years. I've done a ton of various and sundry marketing things, multiple websites, stuff on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all in all, right? To this day, I had one client over 10 years reference anything I've ever done in any of those platforms as something that influenced their buying decision. And that was somebody who listened to my podcast. And they had already kind of made a decision, but they said, they were talking to me and a couple other people, and they're like, hey, I went to your podcast. I listened to a couple. I really like what you said about this and this. I don't know if that was kind of the tipping point for them, but over all of those years and all of that money spent, I can attribute partially one client to self-promotion. or marketing of any kind, to be quite candid with you. Again, not saying marketing's bad, not saying self-promotion's bad, just not for me. So I also think there's a presence versus performance mindset that we take on. We've kind of become spectators in our own lives. Instead of experiencing a moment, we think about how to present it. So are we present? Like, if that's the case, are we really present? Because from a relentless view authenticity standpoint, being relentless isn't about constantly proving yourself. It's about committing to that grind without needing validation, because we're committed to the process. We recognize it might take years. And so for me, when I stopped posting, because I used to do a lot of posting on LinkedIn, I noticed something that was kind of unexpected. I became more present. The people that I interacted with, those conversations felt deeper, and I wasn't constantly distracted by notifications and checking things. And the other part of this was I spent more time thinking deeply and creating better content and experiences for people that were actually my clients right now than thinking about clients that I might get later. And that felt really good. And to a certain extent, there is this piece that we think all these platforms make you feel like you need to broadcast your existence. But the paradox was, by stepping away from that, it allowed me to simply exist. So I went from broadcasting my existence to simply existing. And I was still there. I was still doing all the same work I was doing before, only deeper, only doing it in a deeper fashion. And so the question, I question it for myself, and I'll share the question for everybody else. If you couldn't post about your success, would it still feel like success? So if you never posted anything else ever again about all the successes you've had in your life, would it still feel the same way? Because I think there's something going on with that. Lastly, I think we need to develop the courage to be invisible. We do have a fear of irrelevance. There's a real fear that if we're not promoting ourselves, we'll fade into the background. But what if that's okay? By the way, we will. From the platform standpoint, the minute you go away, everybody's like, there's plenty of people to fill that void. Believe me, nobody's going to be like, oh, I wonder where Perry went on LinkedIn. That's not going to happen, because it's just a constant stream of things coming in, right? So, but it's okay. It's okay to be invisible. It's okay to be invisible, because being invisible allows you to do that deep work that Cal Newport talks about. And it really is, for the relentless view, that mindset, that TRF ethos, it's about doing work because it matters, not because it gets noticed. It's about being relentless in your pursuit of meaning, not in seeking attention. And meaning and attention are two different things. And so I used to do a lot of this. I would take pictures of things and speakers and meetings and all that, and post and talk about how, and I tried to do it in a way that wasn't about me. It was about what other people were getting out of it. But I have to tell you, since I stopped doing it, it feels so much better, because I'm so much more absorbed in the event. I'm so much more absorbed with the people I'm sitting with, instead of thinking, I got to get a picture of this and I got to do that and then I got to go home and post about it. But I do think that we each have to kind of develop our relationship and understand how we feel about visibility. And are you promoting your work because it matters, or because you have a need to feel seen? And I think that's important. And how this ties into Sartre, spend a few minutes talking about that, because Sartre said, there's a dual nature of our self, and there are two components. There's a tension between what he calls facticity and transcendence. And facticity is the given facts about our lives, and transcendence is our ability to choose and redefine ourselves. Now, Sartre talks about bad faith, and he said bad faith arises when we deny our freedom and responsibility by blaming circumstances or social roles. And that's being overly rooted in facticity, as opposed to pretending that we can't also pretend that we're purely free without acknowledging our real world constraints, and that would be ignoring facticity. So we can't be overly rooted in it, and we can't ignore it, right? So here's his famous example as a waiter. He says the waiter comes in and performs his role too earnestly, almost as if he is nothing but a waiter. So he is completely absorbed in the role. And this kind of performance indicates he's denying his own freedom and potential to be more than just his job. And the waiter acts in bad faith by reducing his identity to a role. Therefore he kind of avoids the anxiety of confronting his deeper potential and freedom. So that's when we just deny the transcendence part of it, and we just accept the fact that, well, this is the thing I am. And this happens to everybody. It can be a role at home. It can be a role at work. It can be both. Like when we start identifying ourselves as a role and not a human. And I think that all these platforms inherently foster bad faith because they encourage us to perform a curated version of ourselves at the expense of authentic identity. We reduce ourselves to a role, whether that be a subject matter expert, an entrepreneur, a this, a that, a motivator, whatever it is. And by curating our lives, we distance ourselves from the real, messy, evolving self that we are. Let's face it, that's what we are. We are a mess. And it's awesome, by the way. It is fucking awesome. Because we are a hot mess. All of us. All the time. We're just trying to hold our shit together, right? And so we curate this vision, this version that we put out there on these platforms about how we are literally inventing something. And it takes a lot of effort, and it moves us so far away from things that are meaningful for ourselves. And actually, promotion, I think it becomes a way to kind of fix our identity. And it presents like a consistent, like digestible version of ourselves to the world. Like, okay, I'm okay. Everybody can see this part of me, right? This is who I am, and we kind of deny the complexity of our evolving nature. And then we can't evolve because, my God, you said you were this, and now if I turn around later and say I'm now evolving into this, now I've created a problem. I've created dissonance. So here's the thing. It's also kind of a defense against this, I'll call it existential anxiety. Because existential anxiety arises when we realize that we are ultimately alone in making choices. It's just up to us. I mean, we have people that we care about, and we have people that will help us, but ultimately it's about us. So this curated self that we create is a buffer between all the inner chaos and the outer world. Excuse me. It's our way of like projecting forth not only to other people, but to ourselves that we got our shit together. And I think it does also help stave off the fear of insignificance by creating that illusion of certainty and purpose, which we may or may not have at any given time, or it may be evolving with us as we go. So, when it comes to the conflict, the authenticity versus promotion, we're living in bad faith means choosing comfort over authenticity. We trap ourselves in this version of our identity that feels safe and socially validated. And now the TRF, the Relentless Few ethos, rejects that bad faith because people that adopt this philosophy refuse to settle for comfortable illusions. There was a quote one time, and I forget who said it, but they actually talked about we don't seek the truth, we just want a lie we can live with. And I think that speaks to this. Because being one of the Relentless Few, you're just showing up as you are, even if that means imperfect, misunderstood, and evolving. And that's why I take, I don't have it with me. I should have, because there's video here, I have a kintsugi bowl that I take with me to every meeting. And it's a kintsugi, you can look it up, KINTSUGI. And it's about putting broken pottery back together. And then with over the glued parts of it, you put gold lacquer. So the broken piece is actually more valuable than when it was quote unquote perfect. And so that's a visual reminder for everybody when we go to a meeting that we all have our best meetings and if we show up broken. Because we are. And promotion also kind of tells us that being seen is equal to being real, and that is inherently false. Or worse yet, we actually start to believe that the thing we're putting out there is who we are. And then we try to live up to that thing, which causes a whole shitload of stress, right? To be perfect. And I view it, again, this is all my opinion, and it doesn't go for everybody. Hey, if you're good at promotion, you love doing it, keep doing it. I don't have any issue with it. I have issue with it for me. Because real life is fluid and messy and consistently evolving and constantly evolving. And the more we promote, the more we risk locking ourselves into a role that doesn't fit. And we need to say, we need to really embrace the discomfort of not having a fixed promotable identity, because we're not the same person every day. Heraclitus said you can never step in the same stream twice, because it's never the same stream, you're never the same person. But it's about saying things like, I'm not this role. I'm not defined by what I post. My worth isn't tied to how I'm perceived online. None of those things are accurate. I mean, it's so funny, and we have this discussion all the time, but in Western culture, almost exclusively when you meet somebody new, almost the first question out of your mouth is, what do you do? That's how we identify ourselves. What do we do? What's our job? So some practical steps. Step back. Some idea. If in fact you want to do any of this stuff, if you say, hey, Perry, this is ridiculous, you're full of shit, that's awesome. Like, I get it. This ain't going to land for everybody, and that's fine. But here's some things. If this is like resonating a little bit with you, step back. Refrain from posting when the motive is purely to validate your identity. Just ask yourself, why am I doing it? Check your intent. Are you sharing to connect or to prove something? And be honest. If you're going to do it, share struggles without trying to spin them into a lesson. Just throw it out there. You don't have to learn something from everything. Just share the chaos that is your life. And then from a TRF perspective, we like to, those relentless few people, focus on the work, not the applause. Because we understand real growth just doesn't happen through public performance, but through private struggle and commitment. That's where the growth happens. And I think it's important for us to understand that, we have to challenge our motives, embrace the grind, and be who you are. Don't worry about, reject that idea of needing, and reject the comfort of a fixed, promotable identity. Don't worry about it. It's freedom over image. I mean, true freedom, authenticity, means refusing to be locked into a role, because we as humans are constantly evolving, hopefully. Like if we weren't, again, I'm not going to tell you who said it because I can't remember right now, but the saying is, if you're not embarrassed by who you were 12 months ago, you're not paying close enough attention. And so it's choosing to evolve without the need to constantly narrate that evolution to other people, because it's none of their business, really. The people that matter. Those that, what's Dr. Seuss say? The people that matter don't mind, and the people that mind don't matter, I believe is a Dr. Seuss saying. And so this will conclude this part of the discussion. So this was episode 71, and this was the first in a 3-part series on the relentless truth, stepping away from self-promotion. This one was walking away from the noise, and the next one is the lie of visibility, and the third one is living relentlessly unseen. And so if you like this one, tune in to the next couple weeks. Now, here's the benefit. If this is a bunch of shit and you don't want to listen, you don't have to listen the next 2 weeks. You can take 2 weeks off and come back, because 2 weeks after episode 74, I just recorded a really kick-ass interview with Joe Boyd about storytelling. So that'll be sometime in May. Just ignore the next 3 weeks, and you can just jump on that one, and that'd be awesome. So I hope you like this. I like doing it. I'm probably going to be talking about this for a long time, because this has really got me fired up, as you can probably tell. And I hope it resonated at some point with you, maybe a couple snippets you take away. Or I also hope it elicited some response. If you say, go to hell, I'm good with that too. Like, I'm fine with that. I understand it completely. I'm not casting aspersions. If you love self-promotion, you should continue to do it. Just find out for you what that truth is, because as we're going to talk about next week with Kierkegaard, truth is highly subjective. So I appreciate your time, appreciate you tuning in. Hope you have a great week. Talk to you soon.